runs like a rocket.
Hi, and welcome to this episode of John's Motorcycle Rescue and Review. Once again, I am back with Kawasaki's 1978 KZ1000 project. This bike I bought as a basket case, and I have been bringing it back to life, and I am working on some carburation issues. When I initially got these carburetors were part of a box of parts that I got when I bought the bike. I have gone in and I kind of preliminarily checked them, and they really didn't look bad inside. Everything honestly looked very good inside when I went in and did the preliminary cleaning on them. And so, I made sure to try to make sure all my passages were cleaned out. But evidently, I've got two cylinders on this side of the bike, cylinders 1 and 2, that are not getting quite enough fuel. With the settings that I currently have on the bike, all of my carburetors are set the same. All of my air fuel screws are turned out the same amount. All of my needles are on the same clip. All of my jets are identical from carb to carb. But again, these two cylinders, when I pull the spark plugs, the two cylinders on this side are looking lean, and the two cylinders 3 and 4, are looking rich. So that eliminates any coil problems or electrical problems, and it really points to a fuel problem. And I've also checked to make sure that the carb boots and everything was sealed properly, and so it does not seem like I've got a vacuum leak per se. So again, that puts me back in towards the idle circuit on cylinders 1 and 2. All right, enough talk. Let's go see what this KZ1000 is like out on the road. I'll grab my gear, I'll bring the camera along, let's find out together. Let's ride.
And this thing has motor. I am currently riding Kawasaki's 1978 KZ1000 LTD, and I am trying to get the carburation on this bike finalized, and it's been a bit of a process, and that's sometimes the case. Carburation can be really tricky, and there can also be other things that impact carburation other than jetting. But the reality is the carburation right now is not far off. And I'm running it steady state at about 55 right now. And if I'm anything above 16th throttle, this thing pulls very nicely. Very, very nicely. Runs like a rocket. Handling wise, this suspension is stiff and a little bit wooden feeling, and it's kind of a shame because the motor and the brakes on this thing with these steel braided lines, the motor and the brakes are actually very, very good. Oh man. And so I think with just a little bit of tweaking, maybe some new shocks in the back, maybe a little bit of tweaking in the front, I could really get this thing dialed in and have a really nice all-around bike. So as good as it runs up through the gears like that, you can hear right now at 55, got a cylinder that's just cutting out. If I give it a little bit of gas, that goes away. So we're getting really, really close. The bike is very drivable.
Bike really pulls good once it starts to transition off of that pilot circuit. It really pulls nicely, pulls cleanly, and it pulls hard. So we're getting really close on the jetting, but I don't think at this point that I've got a jetting issue. It's more of a blocked passage issue in two of the carbs. So again, that is the next step I'm going to take. I'm going to pull these off once again. They've been off probably 10 times in the last couple of days trying to get everything sorted out, but the consistent thing is that my spark plugs on my left side are leaner than the spark plugs on the right side. Getting the bike that last step in the process, that last 5% dialed in, can sometimes just be a real pain in the butt. It's just part of the process when you're going through an old bike. On the plus side, I have driven this bike now for about 200 miles. Everything is functioning really well. I love the handlebar setup. The brakes are excellent. This does have steel braided lines on it, and so that really contributes to the brakes feeling very modern. Once I install the new valve cover gasket and the new valve cover end caps, I don't have any oil leaks, I don't have any brake fluid leaks. The bike is really functioning solidly. Now, these shocks in the back, they're kind of crappy from factory, and it gives the bike a little bit of a harsh wooden feel to the ride. And so I may upgrade these at some point, and I may tweak the front suspension. But overall, this bike, the power is great, it's shifting great, the transmission seems solid, the motor isn't making any bad noises, and if I can get this, you know, that last 5% dialed in, this thing's gonna run amazing. This seat, as cool as it looks, and as much as I like it on the bike, it has very little padding here, and so that also contributes to the harsh feeling of these shocks. That just sends every bump, you know, right through your spine if you hit a sharp bump. So I may go to the more standard style seat. I also I've got several of the Z1A tanks, and I may use one of them and make this a Z1A clone instead of the LTD tank. There's a little bit of a difference in shape and dimensionally. The Z1A tank is a little bit wider and lower, and so it also looks a lot like the Z1, which is probably my favorite style bike ever. All right, I hope you found this video entertaining and informative, and until next time, enjoy the ride.